Welcome to Wife Cheating Story. I hope you have an enjoyable and relaxing time listening. Let's get started.
She got pregnant. While I was deployed overseas fighting a war she never asked me to fight. And the father? A guy she barely knew from high school, not even worth remembering. She called it a moment of loneliness. I called it betrayal. She mailed me divorce papers with a letter that said, "If you love me, let me go." So I did. But letting go doesn't mean forgetting. She thought I moved on. She thought I'd never find out about the baby she lost, the secret she buried. Now she wants me back after all these years. And I smiled. Because this time, I'm the one writing the ending. Before we begin, let me know where you're tuning in from down in the comments. And if you enjoy this story, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our next tale. I was sitting in my car, surrounded by sand and soldiers, when I got the message that I was divorced. We had been married for almost 4 years. For a year and a half of that time, I was far away in a hot, dry place. She couldn't handle it anymore, and I completely understood. I didn't try to change her mind. Being married to someone in the military is really tough, but being a parent is even harder. My home is in Ponca City, Oklahoma. That's where I grew up and met Lisa Thompson. We were each other's first love. She was the first girl I dated in high school and in community college. After community college, I joined the Army while she went to college and became a nurse. We got married after she finished her studies and moved to Fort Belvoir, Virginia. We had been at Belvoir for just over a year when I got orders to go overseas. Lisa decided to go back to Ponca City instead of staying here. She found a job at the hospital soon after arriving. When my time overseas was finished, I came back to Belvoir, and Lisa joined me once again. We enjoyed a wonderful 13 months together before I got orders to go back overseas. Once again, Lisa went back to Ponca City. Neither of us liked being apart again, but we understood that this was part of Army life. About 6 months into my time away, I got a letter from Lisa. She wrote that she couldn't handle the separation anymore. "I married you to be with you every day and night. We have been married for almost 4 years, and during that time you have been far away. I can't keep living like this. Please know that I care about you, but I feel very lonely. I am sending you some papers for a divorce. If you love me and care about my happiness, please sign them." I wrote her a long letter, sharing my sadness about how she felt, but I completely understood. I told her I wanted her to be happy, and if divorcing me was what she needed, then I accepted that. I expressed my love for her and signed the papers. A few months after she received the divorce notice, I was back in the United States, stationed in Washington, D.C., near Fort Belvoir. She was still in Ponca City, and I thought she might still be working at the hospital. I felt like calling her, but decided not to. Why bring up the past? I had earned an associate's degree before I joined the Army. Through hard work, online classes, and in-person classes at the University of Maryland, I completed my studies. It was a Monday morning when I reached my office at the Pentagon. I was enjoying my first cup of coffee and looking over my schedule for the day. At 8:45, I received a call. My father had a heart attack and passed away. By the afternoon, I was on a plane back home. Ponca City doesn't have flights, so I traveled to Oklahoma City and rented a car. When I arrived home, my brother Matthew and my sister Tina were there with their partners and our mother. Matthew had been working in the police force since he was 21. Tina, like our mother, was a teacher. I went straight to my mother, who was sitting on the sofa between Matthew and Tina. She saw me, and we both began to cry. Matthew stood up so I could sit and hug Mom. After a little while, she told me that Dad had a heart attack while he was in the garage cleaning his beloved 1957 Chevy Bel Air convertible. "He passed away in that car, and he wouldn't have wanted it any other way," she said with a small smile. The next few days were filled with planning for the final goodbye. Dad was a veteran, so the Army helped take some weight off Mom. The 3 of us children didn't have to make any choices. She and Dad had talked about what they wanted, and she was following through with those plans. The only thing she asked me to do was to wear my dress uniform at the funeral. It was still hanging in the closet of my old bedroom. I hadn't needed it while I was away overseas or in Washington. It just needed a good cleaning, and my ribbons and badges needed to be added. The morning of the funeral arrived, and my mother came over to me. She brushed off some imaginary lint from my chest. Then she looked up at me and said, Your father was proud of you." Later that day, Matt and I stood by the coffin, greeting people as they walked by. We had not been there long when Lisa, my ex-wife, came into view. I reached out my hand to greet her, but she chose to hug me instead. "I'm sorry, Michael," she said. "I was always Michael to everyone, never Mike. I loved your father." "Thank you. So did I." She seemed like she wanted to say more, but she didn't. As the day came to a close, our family gathered at Mom's house, enjoying the large amounts of food that friends had brought over. Mom had been very strong through everything. The sun was setting when the phone rang. Mom and Dad still had a home phone. Tina picked it up. "Hello?" There was a pause. "Hold on. Michael, it's for you." I took the phone and she raised her eyebrows at me. "Hello," I said. "Hello, Michael. Hello, Lisa." That caught everyone's attention. "Can we talk?" "I don't think we have much to say. You made your choice and we are probably both better off." "I'm not so sure about that anymore." "Well, it's in the past now. I have an early flight in the morning, so I'm driving to Oklahoma City soon. I'll stay there for the night. So, I need to go." "Where are you stationed?" she asked before I could hang up. "Listen, Lisa, I don't have a lot of time to spend with my family. Thank you for coming today. Goodbye." I hung up the phone, turned around, and everyone was looking at me. "We're divorced. It's over. I'm okay." "She's okay," I told them. "Now I need to change and pack. I have to leave soon." Before long, I had my bag and was ready to go. There were warm goodbyes all around, and I finally made it to my rental car. The next day, I was back in Washington. One good thing I took from my time with Lisa was a love for classical music, especially Beethoven and Bach. I never really liked Brahms much. 2 weeks after getting back to Washington, the National Symphony Orchestra had a concert featuring some of Beethoven's music. One piece they played was the Bagatelle, along with his Symphony No. 7. The program also included works by Copland and Bernstein. It was hard to get tickets, but the Military District of Washington usually had some for big events nearby, so I went to the Recreational Services office and managed to get one. The night of the concert arrived, and I headed to the Kennedy Center. I had been there before and really enjoyed it. The first part of the program was all Beethoven. During the break, I grabbed a drink and went back to my seat. Other people were also coming back. A couple walked down my row to their seats on my right. The woman was ahead of the man. I stood up to let them pass more easily. When the woman got close to me, she accidentally stepped on my foot. The heel of her shoe caused a quick but surprising jolt of pain, making me shout a little. She lost her balance and fell into me, making me lean back in my seat. She landed in my lap. Luckily, I didn't spill my drink. For a moment, we just looked at each other. The scent of her perfume reminded me of my ex-wife's, which brought back memories. "How's your foot?" she asked warmly. "Not bad," I replied. We shared a quick glance before she continued. "You know, we can't keep meeting like this." "Why not?" I asked. "Are you being silly?" she teased. "Maybe a little," I replied with a smile. "I'm okay with some silly people," she said. Just then we heard someone clear their throat. We both turned to see her friend nearby. She gave me one last look, stood up and smiled as she walked back to her seat. At the end of the concert, everyone was leaving. I noticed her in front of me. I looked around for her companion but couldn't find him. I gently tapped her on the shoulder. She turned and recognized me. "Taboo?" I asked. "Yes. How did you know?" she replied. "It's my favorite song," I explained. "Mine too," she said. "Where's your friend?" I asked. "He's somewhere behind us in the crowd," she answered. "Is he your husband?" I wondered. "Oh, no," she said. "Are you in a serious relationship?" "Not really," she replied. "Can I have your phone number then?" I asked. "I seldom give it out," she said. "Well, I'm a pretty unique guy," I said, smiling. She laughed. "What you are is quite funny. You said that yourself," she joked. "You mentioned you liked interesting people," I reminded her. "I said I liked some interesting people," she corrected. People around us began to listen to our conversation. Some were chuckling, while others shared amused glances. As we reached the front door, she paused. "I think I should wait for my friend. Would you like some company?" "For what?" Just a little while? He can't be far away. She chuckled softly. In that case, I guess I'll say goodbye. It was lovely to run into you. She laughed again. And it was nice to share a moment with you. I laughed too and waved as I walked out through one of the many doors. I glanced back, and she was waving back. It had been almost a month since I attended the Beethoven concert, and I was eager for another one. It didn't have to be Beethoven, but I would enjoy almost any classical music concert. I checked the schedule for the Kennedy Center and saw that there was a concert featuring the music of Maurice Ravel next week. I headed to the Recreational Services office to find out about getting a ticket. There was one available. I took it. When she handed me the ticket, she mentioned, "We were only able to get 2 of these tickets. The seats are together, so you will be sitting next to a colonel's wife." At that time, I was a staff sergeant. Usually, enlisted people and officers, along with their partners, didn't mix much. In my role, I worked with 2 colonels and various lieutenant colonels and majors. Captains and lieutenants were even less common than staff sergeants at the Pentagon. I had never met a colonel's wife before. That didn't bother me, though, because I was there to enjoy the music. The night of the concert arrived, and I wore one of my 2 suits and left for the event. I got to my seat early and started reading the program when I noticed a familiar scent in the air. I looked up, and there she was. I stood up and said, "I thought you said you weren't married." "I'm not," she answered. "I was told that a colonel's wife would be sitting next to me. My mother is married to a colonel." She explained that her mother had gotten the ticket but was unable to use it. "By the way, my name is Connie, Connie Self." She reached out her hand and I shook it. "I'm Michael Carter." "So, Mike, do you like Ravel?" I had never been called Mike before, but I didn't correct her. "I do, especially Gaspard de la Nuit." We chatted until the program began. During intermission, we had a drink in the lobby and kept talking. The program ended with Bolero, which some people find boring, but others, like me, think it's beautiful. As the music played, I looked at Connie Self, and a few times I noticed her looking back at me. At last, the show was over, and I realized that if it had connected with her, she was keeping her thoughts to herself. I walked her to her car and opened the door for her. She paused before getting inside. "Aren't you going to ask for my number?" I looked at her. I had asked for it when we first met, but that was before I found out she was a colonel's daughter. "Well," I said, "I'm a staff sergeant, and you're a colonel's daughter. I'm sure your dad wouldn't want you talking to someone like me." "Who said anything about talking? Friendship isn't about rank." "I didn't mean it that way." "How did you mean it?" I hesitated, struggling to find the right words. She smiled at my awkwardness, got into her car, and drove away. Maybe I just made a big mistake, I thought to myself. 3 days later, I answered the office phone. "Special Operations, Sergeant Carter. How can I help you?" "You can help me by writing down 10 numbers, said a very charming voice that seemed to fill the room. "I'm sorry, can you repeat that?" "You heard me. Now write them down." She began reciting the numbers, and I carefully noted them. "Now repeat them," she said. I did. "Good job. Do you know what to do with them?" "I think I'm starting to understand. You're doing well. Keep it up and you might get more compliments." "Yes, ma'am." "Don't take too long." She hung up. I first wondered how she got my number, but then I thought that her father, like the many others who worked at the Pentagon, could access a Pentagon phone book. That evening, I tried the numbers, but no one answered, so I left a voicemail. The next evening, she called me. "You didn't take long," she said. "You told me not to wait too long." She laughed and we talked. This continued for several nights, but one night was different. "Are you ever going to ask me out?" she asked. "Ask you out for what?" I replied. "To dinner," she said. "I would really like to, but—" "No buts. Do you want to or not?" "I want to," I said. "Then go ahead and ask me." "Okay. Would you like to have dinner with me?" "Sure. When?" "How about tomorrow night?" "Sounds good. What time?" "How about 7? 7 it is." She then gave me her address. She lived in a nice 2-bedroom apartment. When she showed me around, I could see she really liked her shoe collection. The guest room closet had only a few clothes in it. The rest of the closet was filled with shelves full of shoes, and she was excited to show them to me. I was glad she didn't live with her parents. I was still a bit unsure about how they would feel about her dating someone in the military. We had been going out for 2 months before we finally met her parents. She invited me to dinner with them. She noticed I was a little nervous. "Oh, come on, Mike, they're nice people. They're just normal parents. They might be curious since I've never brought someone to dinner before." "Do they know Im in the military?" I asked. "Can you stop worrying about that?" "I'm sorry, one more word about your job and he'll get really mad, so forget it." The dinner turned out better than I expected. I liked Colonel Jacob Self and his wife Marion, and they seemed to like me too. As Connie and I left that night, her father walked us to the door. His farewell words, which I believed were, "It was nice to meet you. We hope to see more of you." That night at her home, we shared a warm and personal evening together, enjoying a shower with Bolero playing softly in the background. She really liked it. 14 months later, we got married. Another 14 months after that, Brigadier General Jacob and Mrs. Marion Self welcomed their first grandchild, a girl. We named her Ruth, and she was born in Virginia while I was still working at the Pentagon. Then, we had another granddaughter, Carrie, born in Germany, and finally a grandson, Jacob, named after his father. He was born while we were at Fort Lewis, Washington. We started calling them Big Jake and Little Jake. Life was good. Big Jake and Marion retired and moved to Florida while Connie and I went back to work at the Pentagon. Connie, the kids, and I visited her parents in Florida. Connie and her mother took Ruth and Carrie shopping. Big Jake and Little Jake were playing in the backyard while I watched and smiled. Then my phone rang. There had been an accident with an elderly couple in their new motorhome. They had crossed into oncoming traffic and crashed into Connie's car. It seemed the old man had a heart attack while driving. He died, but his wife, who was at the back of the motorhome, survived with some bumps and bruises. The three of us hurried to the hospital, only to learn that both Connie and Marion had not survived the crash. Ruth and Carrie were hurt, but would be okay. They were still in the hospital when we said goodbye to Connie and Marion. We buried them next to each other. The next 2 months were the hardest times of my life. Both my daughters spent almost 3 weeks in the hospital. Big Jake and I were there a lot. I was very sad, but life needed to continue. After the girls came home, going back was hard. It was the first time we had been back since our trip to Florida, and we had to feel our sadness all over again. Everywhere we looked reminded us of Connie, the clean clothes in the basket that she hadn't put away, her robe on the bed, her clothes still hanging in the closet. Being in that house with reminders of her was almost as tough as losing her a second time. The four of us cried for days, but it was especially hard for Ruth and Carrie. They never got to say goodbye to their mother or grandmother because they were in the hospital and could not go to the funerals. It was hard, but I got up each morning, prepared the kids for school, and went to work. It took a long time before I felt like I was getting things done again. The kids missed their mother as much as I did. I soon understood that being a single parent to 3 young kids was really tough. 3 years after Connie passed away, I retired from the Army. The kids and I moved back to Oklahoma. We bought a nice house not far from my mother, and my brother and sister lived nearby too. My children enjoyed spending time with their cousins. Connie had been an only child, so this was new for them. I took some time to settle in, but after a few months I began to feel restless. I applied for a job and got hired as a substitute teacher at one of our 2 high schools. If everything went well, I could get a full-time position next school year. Life was moving along okay, but I still missed Connie, and so did the kids. One Saturday evening, Ruth began to complain about a pain in her side. It seemed to get worse, so I quickly took her to the hospital. My sister Tina came over to look after little Jake and Carrie. At the hospital, the doctors took Ruth into surgery right away and removed her appendix. I planned to stay the night with her. As she rested, I dozed off in the chair next to her bed. Around 2 in the morning, I woke up to see the door slowly open, light from the hallway filling the room. It had been a long time, but I recognized her. She was still very lovely. "Hello, Lisa," I said. She paused for a moment, then her face lit up with recognition. "Oh my goodness, I didn't know you were here." "Well, I am." "Please, come in." I got up as she walked to the bed. "How is she?" she asked. "You should know more about that than I do." "You're right. Her chart says she's doing well." "Good." I saw her last name on the admission list. There aren't many Carters in town, so I thought she might be related to Matt or Tina. No, she's my daughter. Where's her mother? She passed away over 3 years ago. Oh, Michael, I'm so sorry. Yeah, me too. Are you living back here now? Yes, for the past few months. We just stood there looking at each other. Finally, I said, I think I should try to get some rest. Of course. And she left. I woke up around 5. There was a blanket over me. I spent most of the next 3 days with Ruth. Lisa came by several times. Lisa and Ruth chatted about boys and how they might act when Ruth wore a bathing suit. It's just a tiny scar, Lisa said to comfort her, and once they see how pretty you are, they won't even notice it. Ruth smiled brightly at this. The first Saturday after Ruth got out of the hospital, my phone rang. I didn't recognize the number, so I didn't pick it up, but the caller left a message. Hi, this is Lisa. I hope Ruth is doing well. Being in the hospital is tough for kids. There was a short silence. Could we talk? There are many things I want to say to you that I never had the chance to share. Please, Michael? I listened to her message at least 5 times before I called her back. Hello, she said when she picked up. Hi, it's Michael. Hi, she replied. You wanted to talk? I asked. Not on the phone, in person. Okay, I said. Mom is taking the kids to the lake tomorrow. Why don't you come to my house around 10:30 in the morning? Or do you have to work? No, tomorrow works for me. Where do you live? I shared my address. Do you still drink coffee? I do, but it's decaf now. Same here. She arrived right on time at 10:30. She had always been good about being on time. The coffee was already ready when I opened the door for her. I noticed she seemed to want to show some warmth but hesitated. I pointed to a chair for her to sit in. After she took a sip of her coffee, she began to speak. It was 9 months into your first time away. I had a moment of weakness. I missed you and was excited for your return. Sammy Young saw me at the mall and started talking to me. Do you remember him? I shook my head. He was 2 years ahead of us in school. That talk led to more conversations. Soon we began going out together. After nearly 2 months, I made a choice I later regretted. Just once. She took a sip of her coffee. When you came home, I was so scared you would find out. But you were so happy to see me that the thought I had betrayed you never came to mind. You might remember that we had a great year together, I replied. I nodded. Then you had to go back overseas, and I returned here. Just a couple of weeks after you left, he showed up again. I don't know how he found out I was back in Ponca. The idea of being without you for another year was too much for me. Less than a month after you left, I ended up in a situation I never expected. I stayed on that path for 2 more months, and then I found out I was going to have a baby. That's when I asked you for a divorce. I told him, and he left for places unknown. I've seen him in town since then, but we never talk. After I filed for divorce, I lost the baby. I almost stopped the paperwork, but I felt too guilty to do it. I tried to tell you what happened when you came home for your father's funeral, but you wouldn't let me. Breaking your trust is the hardest thing I've ever done, and I regret it every day. I acted in a selfish way, and I have no excuse. I loved you when we were young. I loved you when I married you, and I loved you when we divorced. All these years I stayed away from your family because I felt ashamed. We run into each other now and then, but that's all. 2 years after our divorce, I met a man at the hospital. His mother was having surgery. We hit it off, and a year later, we were married. 3 years after that, we divorced. Since that time, I focused on my work. Then I saw Ruth's name at the hospital. I had been staying away from your family, but I thought if she needed anything, I could help her. I opened her door, and there you were. I'm not often surprised, but seeing you really caught me off guard. I didn't know how to act or what to say. After leaving her room, I walked down the hall and broke down. I cried for 2 hours. I cried because I was happy you were alive and doing well. Then I cried because of the mistake I had made and the love I had lost. I took a sip of my coffee, which was too cold to drink by then, just like hers, I guessed. I sat there looking at her, trying to think of something to say. I had no idea she had been unfaithful, and I didn't know she had become pregnant by someone else while still married to me. Finally, I spoke. I don't know what to say. I always thought you divorced me because you couldn't handle the distance. But now you tell me that wasn't the problem. It wasn't just being alone, it was something different. I understood the feeling of loneliness. I cared about you so much that I let you go because I didn't want you to feel alone. That's why I agreed to the divorce. But finding out you were with someone else while we were still married, that's hard for me to accept, even after all these years. I cared for you enough to let you go, and while it hurt to lose you, you were on a different path. I reached over, took her cup, and walked to the kitchen. I think you should leave, I said as I walked away. Please, Michael. Goodbye. She stood slowly, walked to the door, opened it, and turned back to me. Michael, Goodbye. Why did she have to say that? Should it matter after all these years? Why did it affect me this way? At first I felt angry, then frustrated. I thought about what she said for 2 weeks. Eventually I realized it shouldn't matter anymore. We had been divorced for years, and I had moved on. The end of the school year was close, and I was very busy, so Lisa faded from my mind. Big Jake asked if the kids could visit him for part of the summer. I said yes, of course. 3 days after school ended, he flew up to see us. We met him at the airport in Oklahoma City, and the kids flew back with him. Their visit was planned for 2 weeks, which was what Big Jake thought he could handle. I hadn't had much of a social life since Connie passed away, and 3 years is a long time. I had met a few women along the way, but I still missed Connie. My brother and sister tried to set me up with others, but it didn't go anywhere. I just didn't feel a real connection. Sure, I had a few short meetings, but they were only about passing time. By then, my brother was the deputy chief of police. One day, he came over to my house. I had just mowed my lawn and was sitting on my front porch with a glass of iced tea. He came in, poured himself a drink, and then joined me outside. We talked for a little while before I realized why he was there. I probably shouldn't tell you this, but since it's public information, I think it's okay, he said. We've arrested Lisa 3 times recently for being publicly drunk. Each time, when my officers tried to take her in, she resisted and claimed she belonged to Michael Carter. The first time she mentioned it, the officer found it funny, so he shared it with me. She said it again 2 more times. Her father helped her out of trouble, and the district attorney decided not to press charges. When it happened again last week, she chose to go to a rehab program for alcohol in Tulsa. She is there now. I shook my head. Why are you telling me this? Her father thinks this has something to do with you. He didn't know you were back in town until Lisa got drunk and started saying she had seen you and your daughter. When she was sober, he asked her about it, but she wouldn't talk. The last time he remembers her drinking was during your divorce. He mentioned that she usually doesn't drink much. I recalled that we used to have an occasional drink together, but not often. My question is still the same. Why are you telling me this? Truthfully, I'm not sure. It seems like she's in a tough spot, and you're the one she wants to talk to. I took a deep breath and talked about our last chat. Oh my, he said. Do her parents know? I don't know, but if she hasn't told them, I'm not going to. We kept talking until his radio went off, and he had to go. For the next 3 days, I couldn't stop thinking about Lisa and how her decisions affected our marriage. I felt torn between feeling lonely and wanting something more. Love versus an attraction. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. I didn't owe her anything, so why was she on my mind so much? I didn't know, but the next day I called Lisa's dad and asked if I could meet with him and his wife. When I got there, we shook hands, and Lisa's mom offered me some iced tea. In an Oklahoma summer, no one says no to iced tea. I hadn't been in that house for many years, but when I looked around, everything felt the same. What can we do for you, Michael? Her dad asked. I'm not sure, I said. I heard Lisa has been having a hard time and is in rehab. I wanted to see if I could help in any way. Honestly, we don't know, he replied. Things were fine until she was arrested for the first time. That's when we realized you were back. We're at a loss, Michael. She seems to be going through a lot, and she won't open up about it. Her mom squeezed her husband's hand tightly. We're getting old, Michael, and we want to find a way to help her, but we just don't know how, said her father. Would it help if I met her? I asked. We've thought about that, and we're not sure if it would help or make things worse, but it's worth a try, he said. The next day I drove to Tulsa. I signed in at the front desk and was shown to her room. She was sitting in a chair, looking out at the gardens. When she heard the door open, she turned to see who had come in. Her eyes grew wide when she saw me. "Hi, Michael. I didn't think I would ever see you again," she said. "Why not?" I asked. "I thought you were upset with me after our last talk." "I'm not upset, Lisa. I've never been upset. But I am worried about what happened." She stood up and walked toward me, looking straight into my eyes. "So am I, Michael. I feel very sorry about what happened, and I can't change it. I've carried the guilt and doubt for many years. There have only been a few days when it hasn't been on my mind. Those days were special." She turned and sat on the edge of her bed, looking off with a thoughtful expression. Then she asked, "Why are you here?" "I'm not really sure. I spoke to your parents and—" She cut me off, her voice tight. "Oh no, Michael. You didn't tell them, did you? That would really hurt them." "No, I didn't tell them." I sat on the window ledge, watching her. "That's something you can decide if you want to share." "I will never tell them. Never. They would be heartbroken." She leaned back on her bed, the weight of her words lingering in the room. "That's up to you." There was a quiet moment, and I noticed her eyes shining. "Are you all right?" "I'm not sure. I thought I was okay, but now I feel different. I started drinking after I last saw you. I wanted to forget the memories, but instead they became clearer. Everything came rushing back." She paused, a hint of sadness in her voice. "Do you remember what you wrote in your letter when you sent back the divorce papers?" "I remember most of it. I remember every word. I still have it, and have read it many times. You said you would give me the divorce if it would make me happy. That was all you really wanted from me. And the thought of my loneliness worried you. If the divorce would help me find joy again, you signed the papers without hesitation. I have loved you since the day I met you," you said. "Signing these papers is one of the easiest things I have ever done because it will make you happy. And with that, you signed." "I cried when I first read it, and I cry every time I read it now." She turned away, tears filling her eyes. The room was quiet for a while. I sat on the windowsill, wishing I could ease her feelings. I felt a lump in my throat, wanting to comfort her. I stayed with her until it was time for her to go to dinner. She didn't want to leave, but it was important. She seemed like she wanted to hold me, but hesitated at the last moment. When I left, I drove straight to her parents' house. "Why is she there?" I asked. "We don't know exactly. It was her idea. She said she needed to stop drinking, and they would help her." "Has she ever had a problem with alcohol?" I asked. "Never," they replied. "What made it start?" I wondered. "We thought you might know, as we don't understand," they answered. "I'm not a specialist, but I think she is running away from something. I feel she should come home. I don't believe they can really help her there," I suggested. "I agree," her father said. "I'm not so sure," her mother replied. "If you allow me, I would like to visit her again tomorrow." "Of course," they said together. I arrived early the next morning. She was in the cafeteria having breakfast. Her face brightened when she saw me. "You came back," she said with a big smile. "I did." "Would you like some coffee?" "Yes, but not here." "Where?" "At your parents' house." "How about we have lunch with them?" "Are you serious?" "Yes." "What do we need to do to leave here?" "I'm not sure. Do you want to stay?" "Not if you want me to go." "Then let's go." We went to her room, packed her things, and walked to the front desk. "I'm going home," Lisa said. Once she got into my car, she called her parents. "Hi, Mom. I'm on my way home." There was a pause. "Michael is bringing me." Another pause. "We'll be there soon. Love you. Bye." The ride was very quiet. Neither of us spoke, but I could feel her looking at me the entire way. It was like she wanted to remember me just in case I disappeared, just like the day before when she often looked my way. When we arrived, her parents were waiting at the front door. Lisa jumped out and greeted them happily, as if she had been gone for a long time. "Why? How?" were the only words her parents could find. "Michael invited you to lunch, so we came back home." "When are you going back?" her mother asked. Lisa looked at me and I shrugged. Then she looked at her mother. "Never. I don't need them." We had lunch together and later we had dinner. It was almost midnight when I decided to go home. She walked me to my car. "Thank you, Michael," she said. "You're welcome," I replied. "Will I see you again?" "I don't know," I answered. "I think I can accept that now because for years I believed you didn't like me. You said you didn't, but I could not believe it. After these last 2 days, I feel in my heart that you do care. Now I just have to be kinder to myself." She walked back inside the house. Now what should I do? I wondered as I drove home. I had to admit that spending the day with her brought back some nice memories. But every time I thought about her, I recalled the tough times she had gone through. I stayed at home for the next few days, working in my yard and around the house. It helped me feel better. On the third day, I decided to call her parents. "How is she?" I asked. "She's doing great. She's back to her old self. She asked if we've heard from you." "I might give her a call," I said. "I had her number from when she reached out to me. She returned to work today and won't be free until 3. "Is she still living with you?" I asked. "No, she went back home yesterday." "That's good for her." At 4 o'clock, I called her. "Hello?" "Hi, it's Michael." I could almost feel her surprise. "Hi. I wanted to see how you're doing." "I'm doing well, Michael." "Thank you." "Listen, if you haven't had dinner yet, would you like to eat at Enrique's?" There was a pause. "Hello? Oh, I'm sorry, Michael. You surprised me." "I understand. Maybe another time." "No, I would really like to go." I kept thinking about why I invited her to dinner, but I couldn't remember. We had some laughs and shared nice memories about old friends and happy times. When I took her home, I walked her to the door. "Would you like some coffee?" I almost said yes, but decided to say no, saying I had a long day and needed some rest. We exchanged a friendly hug goodnight. My kids had been away for a while, and I wanted them back home. I spoke with them and their grandfather a few times, and I sensed they were not quite ready to return, nor was he ready to let them go. I smiled. I talked to Ruth and told her I wanted them to come home. "Dad, we can't come home yet," she said. "Big Jake is taking us on a Disney cruise. We can't miss that." "What?" "Let me talk to him." He picked up the phone. "Yes, Michael?" "What's this about a Disney cruise?" "It's one that leaves every week. The kids will really enjoy it." "Shouldn't we have discussed this first?" "Not really. I'm their grandfather, so I can do a lot with them. It's allowed, but they'll need their passports." "Can you send them overnight, please?" "Doesn't the parent have a say in this?" "Nope. When it comes to grandparent and grandchild, the parents don't really matter." I chuckled. "Okay, Jake. But if anything goes wrong..." Now he laughed. "I've got it all handled, Michael. Enjoy another week to yourself." "Maybe I'd rather have my kids with me." "Too bad. You lose this one." We both laughed. I sent their passports right away. If they had been home, I might have called Lisa less. As it was, I could wait 2 more days. "Hi, Michael." "Hi. I was wondering if you would like to go to Oklahoma City on Friday. The symphony is playing." Lisa was the one who first introduced me to classical music. However, the music they were going to play was all Beatles songs, but I didn't mention that. I should have known better because she probably already did. "You know they're doing a tribute to the Beatles, right?" She laughed when she said it. "That's okay. We don't have to go." "No, I'd love to go." We had been to the symphony in Oklahoma City many times and always stayed overnight. But this time, I did not plan to stay with her. On Friday morning, Lisa called me. "I can't go with you tonight," she said. I wanted to ask her why, but I chose not to. I thought she might share her reasons on her own. She didn't. "Thank you for asking. It means a lot to me," she said. "Maybe another time," I replied. I hope so. Maybe she was slowly accepting my presence and starting to forgive herself. Perhaps she was beginning to find her way back to the life she had before I returned. For the next 2 weeks, Lisa and I didn't speak at all. Then my kids were coming home. I drove to Oklahoma City to meet them. Big Jake had flown with them, and I wanted him to stay with us for a few days, but he preferred to go home. There were some heartfelt goodbyes. He and the girls shared their feelings, while little Jake stood off to the side, a bit shy about the emotional moments being shown by his sisters and grandpa. They were really happy on the way home, and I learned more about Disney World and Disney cruises than I ever wanted to. 2 days later, the four of us went shopping at the supermarket. Food doesn't last long with 3 hungry kids. I sent Ruth and Carrie to get some bananas. They came back a few minutes later, not with the bananas, but with Lisa. "Dad," said Ruth, "look who we found. She was also getting bananas." Ruth remembered Lisa from her short time in the hospital. "Hello," I said. "Hi." "Are you okay?" I asked. "Yeah, I'm fine," she replied. "Good," I said. There was a long, quiet moment. "Well, I guess we better keep moving. Come on, kids." "Sure," she said. "Maybe I'll see you again." I watched her walk away, and part of me wanted to follow her and ask about what happened between us. Then I remembered there was no us. I was just trying to help an old friend who used to be my wife. I really missed the little time we had together, but I wasn't sure if I missed Lisa, my kids, or just having someone to share life with. My brother Matt is married to Rosa, who has a cousin named Francesca. I think I had met Francesca a long time ago, but I couldn't remember her. One night, Matt and Rosa invited me over for dinner, and Francesca was there too. It was a nice evening. Francesca was friendly and pleasant, but I didn't feel like starting anything new. I told Matt and Rosa that their plans to set me up with someone were not going to happen. It wasn't that I didn't want to meet someone, because I did. One Saturday afternoon, my kids were at the swimming pool with their cousins, so I went to the park and sat by the lake. I used to go to the park a lot when I was younger. It was my special place. Even when the park was busy, I felt like I was alone. I thought about my life, my marriage to Lisa, my time with Connie, her passing, my time in the army, and my 3 great kids. I considered myself fortunate. I had loved 2 women deeply, and I realized that was just how I loved. I got to a point where it didn't really bother me that Lisa had been unfaithful. If we hadn't divorced, I never would have met Connie, and I wouldn't have my kids. The reasons for the divorce didn't seem important anymore. I stood up, planning to go back to my children. Just then, I nearly bumped into Lisa. "I've been watching you for over an hour. You haven't moved at all," she said. "I've been thinking." "I thought so. You used to spend a lot of time here when you were figuring things out." "Yes, I did," I replied. "Remember how you and I would come out here and park right over there?" She pointed to a spot that I recognized well. "I remember. That's where we shared our first kiss." I smiled at the memory. She playfully tapped my shoulder. "It's also where we had our first special moment together when I was starting to understand relationships." "Special moment, huh? You were the one who made everything so intense," I said with a chuckle. We walked over to a picnic table and sat down. "It's been a long couple of weeks," she said. "I've missed you." "Yeah, me too. Do you know why I couldn't go to the symphony with you?" I figured it was none of my business. "It is your business," she said, pausing for a moment. "When we used to go, we would enjoy time together afterwards, sharing a nice meal. When the weather was nice, we would turn off the lights in our hotel room and sit on the balcony, enjoying drinks and snacks together. After that, we would go inside and share special moments. We always felt a strong bond. I remember saying, that's why I couldn't leave. I couldn't bear the thought of sitting by you, listening to the music, and knowing we would return here after the concert instead of going somewhere different." We sat in silence for a while before I asked, "I understand, but what has changed in the last few weeks?" "To be honest? Yes. I find it hard to be around you. You make me think about how complicated our past is. The truth is, I struggle to keep my distance when I see you. Right now, I really want to be closer to you no matter where we are." We looked at each other for a moment, then turned away. She spoke again. "I've realized that you might not see me the same way again or want to be close to me, so I've kept my distance. I come here like you to think about things. I saw you sitting here trying to figure things out. I would love to know what you're thinking. I hope you're considering the chance to rebuild our friendship. Since we both live in this town, I'd be happy just to be seen as friends." "I like to think we are friends," I replied. "Me too." There was a long, silent pause. "Well, I have to go now. I came here to think, but if I stay, all I'll think about is you." She started walking toward her car. I walked beside her, and we held hands as we strolled. When we reached her car, I opened the door for her. Just as she was about to get in, I called out, "Lisa." She turned to look at me. I asked, "How many men have you gone out with since your last divorce?" She answered, "3." I wanted to know if it was serious. "One of them. A couple of times," she replied. Then she got into her car and drove away. I watched her leave, not sure why I asked her that. It wasn't really my place to know, and it didn't matter to me. The next Saturday, my kids were swimming with their cousins again. I was at the corner of 14th and Grand when another car ran a red light and hit me. I woke up in the hospital with my left arm in a sling. Looking around, I saw my mom, brother, and sister all watching me. My mom smiled and kissed my cheek. She took my hand gently. "How do you feel?" "Like I got hit by a truck." My brother laughed. "Actually, you did. A truck with a careless driver. We put him in jail." My mother spoke next. "The doctor says you'll be okay. You're hurt and have some bruises. And your shoulder is sprained, but it could have been much worse." Later, my kids came to visit. The girls were crying, and Jake was curious about all the tubes and wires. The girls held my hands, and Jake asked why there was a bag hanging from my bed. I tried to explain what it was for, but he didn't really get it. Ruth, being the oldest, understood and scrunched up her nose as I talked. It was late evening, and I had convinced everyone to go home because I wanted some time alone. I was tired of having visitors. That evening, my dinner was a cheeseburger and fries. By the time it reached my room, both were cold. I was hungry, so I ate it all even though it was not warm. I had enough medicine, which made me feel pretty good. As I watched TV, I noticed my door slowly open. She came in and stood by my bed. "How do you feel?" she asked. "I could be worse," I replied. "Can you get out of bed?" "I haven't tried. I don't think they want me to." "That's okay." She leaned in closer and gave me a gentle touch. "I wanted to do that since I saw you with Ruth. You could tell the staff if you wanted, but I'm glad I did it. After I saw you at the lake, I decided I still care about you. If it leads to sadness, that's all right." Then she left. I stayed awake until after 2 in the morning, thinking about that moment and what she said. I pressed the button on my device that controls the TV, nurse call, and my bed. The top part of my bed lowered until it was flat. I enjoyed our conversation, but I wasn't sure if it was because of her or if I just wanted any sign of care from someone else. Eventually, I fell asleep. When I woke up at 7, my mother was there. We went through our usual "how are you" exchange before she sat on the edge of my bed and took my right hand, holding and gently rubbing it. Then she asked, "What's going on between you and Lisa?" "What do you mean?" I replied as I let go of her hand and pressed the button to raise the top part of my bed so I could sit up. When I arrived, she was sitting in that chair asleep, with a blanket covering her. "Was she here all night?" I asked. "I don't know. I went to bed after 2 and she wasn't here then," came the reply. A moment later, she woke up and said good morning. She folded the blanket and went to check on my breakfast before leaving. That was about 15 minutes ago. Just then, the door opened and Lisa came in with my breakfast tray. She set it on the little table in front of me. "They made scrambled eggs, but I asked them to prepare them the way you like. Are they still good like this?" With that, she lifted the cover off the plate, revealing 2 perfectly cooked eggs. "I also mentioned that you like ham instead of turkey sausage or bacon." She smiled at me. Then she put a napkin on my chest and started cutting my ham and eggs. With my fork, she lifted a piece of both and brought it to my mouth. "What are you doing?" "I can feed myself," I said. "Not really. Your left arm is in a sling and you're left-handed. You can't feed yourself, so just open up like a good boy." I opened my mouth as my mom laughed. I remembered the cold cheeseburger and fries from the night before and thought I had been okay eating, but I chose not to say anything. "Oh, I'm sorry, Mrs. Carter. Do you want to take over?" I asked. Still chuckling, Mom said, "No, dear, you're doing well. I did my part when he was a baby." "Has still a baby," Lisa added as she gently wiped my mouth with the napkin. I finished everything on the tray and couldn't stop looking at her. She did let me drink my coffee by myself. After I finished eating, she used my napkin to clean my mouth again. When she left, Mom said, "Michael, someone cares about you." "What are you going to do about it?" I asked. I really don't know, I replied, gazing at the closed door. I stayed for 2 more days and learned that she never left the hospital. Every night she sat in the chair beside my bed. If I needed anything, she wouldn't let anyone else help. The only other person allowed to feed me was Ruth, who thought it was fun. So did Carrie. Jake found it funny. On the day I was leaving, she was there to take me to the entrance where my brother waited to take me home. "Call me if you need anything," she said as she leaned down for a moment. This is starting to feel normal, I thought as Matt drove me away. I looked at him and he had a smirk on his face. "Not a word," I said. "Not a word." He didn't say anything, but the grin stayed on his face. On my first night at home, I called her. "I was hoping you would call," she said. "Thanks for all your help at the hospital. Would you think about coming over to help Ruth and Carrie make dinner? They want to, but they need a little help." She arrived in 20 minutes, and I could hear her and the girls laughing while they cooked. Jake usually avoids the kitchen except to grab something from the refrigerator, but soon I heard his laughter joining theirs. She stayed with us for dinner because my kids insisted. After the meal, the girls offered to clean up, which was a rare thing. Lisa came into the living room to chat while the girls tidied up. Jake had no plans to help his sisters. The girls finished their activities and all 3 kids went to their rooms after saying goodnight and giving us hugs. Even little Jake hugged Lisa. While the kids took showers and got ready for bed, Lisa and I were talking. As our conversation went on, I started to feel tired, and it was close to midnight. "Are you sleepy?" she asked. "A little," I replied. "If you need help with your arm, I'm here," she smiled. "I don't need help. I can manage," I said. "All right," she said. "You'll head home now." She got up, took her purse, and said goodnight. I didn't like staying awake to think, but that night was no different. I kept wondering about Lisa. 2 days later, I realized what was bothering me. She didn't smell the same as I remembered. She smelled like soap. It was a nice smell, but just soap, not any perfume. That was it. No fancy scents. Over the next few weeks, Lisa came to my house 4 times a week. The kids got used to her cooking dinner and eating with us, which I liked too. I learned I had a steady teaching job and school was coming up fast. In all this, I realized I had forgotten to get clothes and supplies for the kids. We did well with school supplies, but when it came to clothes, even Jake didn't want to go shopping with me. One morning, while we talked about what we needed at home, Ruth said, "Lisa knows more than you do, Dad. She can help us." I answered, "Maybe she isn't free." "Call her," Ruth pushed me. I put the phone on speaker and her phone rang. "Hi, Michael," Lisa said. "Hi, I have a little problem," I replied. "A problem?" she asked. "Yes, it's time to buy school clothes, but my 3 little ones don't seem to like what I pick." The kids all agreed loudly. Lisa laughed. "That's because you shouldn't be choosing girls' clothes." Ruth and Carrie cheered, and Jake added, "Not mine either." "So, they want you to go shopping with us?" There was a pause, then I heard a small sniffle. "Really?" asked Lisa. "Yes, if you can't come, they will have to go with me." "No, I will find time." "When?" "Now," the kids said together. "Did you hear that?" I asked Lisa. "Yes, I did," she replied, and I could almost feel her smile through the phone. We picked her up and went shopping, spending the whole day together. It was great to see the kids having so much fun. When we got back home, we decided to order pizza for dinner. The kids started trying on the things they bought, and we had a lively gathering. As the evening went on, I asked Lisa if she was ready to leave. She looked around. The kids were still playing and finishing their pizza. "Not really, but I guess I should," she said. "Okay, kids, I'm taking Lisa home. Get ready for bed. You should all be asleep when I come back." We drove in silence to her house. I walked her to her door. "Thank you for today," I said. "Any time," she replied with a smile before going inside. After thinking for a moment, I rang her doorbell. She opened the door right away as if she was waiting for me. "Could I ask you a question?" I asked. "Of course. Why don't you wear taboo anymore?" She looked at me, her eyes full of tears, and took my hand. "Come with me." She guided me to her room, then let go of my hand. She opened a lower drawer in her chest and pulled out a box. After placing it on the bed, she opened it to show me our wedding album, her rings, our marriage license, and a pile of letters. The last thing in the box was a half-full bottle of Taboo. I put this away the day I asked for a divorce. It was your perfume, and you bought this bottle for me. I haven't worn it or any perfume since. She put it back in the box and closed the drawer. I will wear it again when you ask me to. I took her hand and walked to the front door. When we reached it, I opened the door and turned to her, holding both of her hands in mine. There is a concert Friday night in OKC. I would like you to join me and wear it. She looked at me with wide eyes and began to cry. I had no idea someone could have so many tears. She couldn't stop, so I went back inside the house, closed the door, and held her. It took her a while to calm down. When she did, she reached into my back pocket and took out the handkerchief I always kept there. She stood there drying her eyes. "Really?" she asked. "Really? You're not joking?" "I'm not joking. Should I bring an overnight bag?" Her voice was filled with excitement. I smiled. "Just bring your toothbrush. You won't need any clothes." She jumped into my arms, almost pushing me back outside. On Friday afternoon, I picked her up. She looked beautiful and was wearing Taboo. The drive was quiet. The symphony was. I wasn't sure what was happening around us because I was focused on Lisa, who kept glancing my way. About 20 minutes into the program, she leaned closer and whispered, "We don't have to watch all of this, you know." I replied quietly, "I know, but waiting makes it more exciting." She said, "I'm tired of waiting. I want to be near you." "Shh," came a voice from behind us. "Get a room," someone said from the front. "Good idea," I replied as I stood up, took her hand, and we walked out together. 30 minutes later, we were in our room. I felt nervous, and I could tell she was too. The whole room seemed to buzz with energy. I walked over and hugged her. "Would you like some sparkling juice?" I asked gently. "No. I just want to be with you." We pulled apart, and I looked at her. She looked stunning in her evening dress while I wore my tuxedo. I turned her around, and she lifted her hair. The dress had a smooth zipper that moved easily. When it got to the bottom, I turned her around and placed my hands gently on her back. She took a deep breath as I carefully pulled the top down. I stopped just before revealing too much. She looked at me with interest. "It's all about waiting," I said. I took off my tux jacket and removed my bow tie. We both sat on the edge of the bed, looking at each other. I took off my shoes and socks while she removed her shoes. We faced each other. Lisa found a way to handle the buttons on my shirt without any trouble. She playfully tugged at the bottom of my shirt, pulling it upward. As I lifted my arms, the shirt slipped off my shoulders and fell to the floor. She carefully lowered my pants, and they fell to my ankles. In that moment, we exchanged a meaningful look filled with unspoken questions and expectations. I reached for her dress, sliding it down slowly, revealing more with each move. I leaned closer to her, but she gently paused me, smiling softly. "Let's enjoy the moment," she said quietly. We took our time, reconnecting in a quiet way. There was no hurry, just the warmth of being close to someone who once meant so much to me. It felt like returning home after a long trip. Each glance and gentle touch reminded us of who we were and what we shared. Later, we sat on the balcony with glasses of sparkling juice, watching the city lights shimmer below. It was tranquil, as if time had stopped just for us. The noise of the world faded away as we enjoyed the quiet space we made together. Inside, the evening went on with soft laughter, deep talks, and a closeness that didn't need words. We let go of the past for a while, choosing instead to be in the moment, two people finding a lost connection again. I saw her shake a little as I lay beside her. As we moved together, old feelings came back. This felt special, and I appreciated it. We both knew the bond we had. Her movements became gentle, matching mine. I felt her strength as we found our rhythm, and our bond grew with each small movement. It was a reminder of where we belonged. I woke up with her close to me and smiled. The drive home was cozy and brought back happy memories. After I dropped her off, we shared a nice moment before going our separate ways, feeling a hint of the connection we used to have. A few days later, Lisa came over for dinner. I cooked steaks and shrimp on the grill. As soon as Lisa arrived, the kids ran to greet her. When Ruth got closer, She stopped and stared at Lisa. "You smell like my mom," Ruth said. "What?" Lisa replied, surprised. "You smell like my mom. She used to wear the same perfume." Lisa looked at me, and the mood changed from cheerful to a bit heavy as dinner went on. The kids were oblivious, but I noticed it. Every time I glanced at Lisa, she looked back at me. When dinner ended, Lisa said, "I need to go." "I'll walk you to your car," I offered. I reached out to hold her hand as we walked to her car, but she gently pulled away. I opened the door for her, and she looked at me. I thought it was me, but it wasn't. It was her. "You didn't want me. You wanted her back. That's why you asked me about the perfume. You just wanted a piece of her." "That's not true. No, I love that perfume, but you had it first. Maybe I liked her more because of you." She got into her car and drove away. A whole month passed, and she wouldn't let me talk to her. She blocked my number, and every time I visited her home to talk, she wouldn't answer the door. One time when I saw her at the mall, she turned and walked the other way. The kids didn't understand, and try as I couldn't explain it to them. One Saturday evening, the kids and I decided to go to the movies. Ruth and Carrie were excited to watch a movie, but Jake and I weren't as interested. The movie hadn't started yet, and the lights were still on. "Isn't that Lisa?" Carrie asked. I looked up and saw her walking down the aisle to her seat with a man beside her. "Yes, it is," I replied. "Can we go say hi?" she asked. "I don't think so, sweetie." The lights dimmed and the movie began. During bright scenes, I glanced over at her. I noticed they were sharing a drink from the same cup. When the movie finished, we made our way out. The girls were cheerful, and Jake was making silly sounds. In the lobby, Lisa and her companion spotted us. She came over to say hello to the kids, but didn't introduce her friend or talk to me. As they walked away, I heard him ask who we were. "That's my ex and his family," she told him. Life carried on. Christmas break had just begun, and I was busy finishing my holiday shopping. I had already taken care of presents for my mom, my brother and his family, and my sister and her family. I still wanted to do more for my kids, so I found myself at the mall. I felt drawn to the only men's store there. As I looked through the suits, a sales clerk came over to help me. I didn't need help, but I didn't mind her being there. Once I saw all I wanted, I thanked her and made my way to the exit. Lisa stood at the large open door as I left. I started to walk around her, but she spoke up. "Did you find something you like?" "Why do you care?" I replied, still walking. She was close enough for me to notice that she wasn't wearing her usual perfume. "Do you want to talk?" she asked. "I don't think there's anything for us to discuss," I said, continuing on my way. "You said enough when you claimed I didn't care about you, but only wanted Connie back. If you want to chat, go talk to your friend." "He's just a friend." "A close friend, it seems. Close enough to share a straw." She was a step or two behind me, but she caught up and grabbed my arm. "What do you mean?" I pulled away and kept walking. "I saw you at the movies sharing a straw. He spilled his drink, so we used mine. What's the big deal? Casual friends don't do that. That's what close friends do." She stopped walking, but I didn't. "What are you implying?" "You heard me. You're smart. You understand what I'm saying." I kept walking. She hurried to catch up. "Are you saying that I paused and turned to look at her. "Are you seeing him?" "What? Are you having trouble hearing me? What gives you the right to ask that?" When I spoke to her at the lake about how many guys she had dated since her divorce, she answered right away, but now she was upset. "I may not have a right to, but I thought we were getting closer. Never mind. I need to go." I started to walk away. She grabbed my arm to stop me. "I will be with whoever I want. Do you get that? You don't control me, and you never did." "You're right. I never did. You always chose your own path. Even getting married didn't change that." I gently removed her hand from my arm and went home. The kids and I had a really nice Christmas. Matt and Rosa got invited to a neighborhood New Year's Eve party. They asked me to come, and in an unexpected decision, I said yes. We hadn't been there long when Lisa and a man I recognized from a movie arrived. I told Matt that I was planning to leave and shared my reason. "Michael, are you going to leave every time you see her with someone? Be more confident and join in," he suggested. That was the best advice I ever got, and I decided to follow it. I took a drink and began to mingle. Soon I found myself in a small group that included Lisa, who seemed to know most of them. They didn't know our past, and we gave no sign that we knew each other. "How's Timmy?" someone asked. "He's fine," Lisa replied. "He's over there getting a drink." "Is he a good match?" one of the ladies asked. I hadn't looked directly at her, but I felt her attention on me, so I met her gaze. Our eyes met as Lisa answered, "Probably, for someone." She then excused herself and walked away. "They seem like a nice couple," someone in the group said. "Yeah, but something feels off. Timmy is a bit upset. He likes her, but she seems unsure, and he isn't sure if it's worth waiting. It feels like she sees him as a brother." "Unsure? About what?" "Well, he has never been to her house. They have been together for a while, and he still hasn't been invited in." "Yeah, but I bet she has visited his place enough," one of the guys joked, and the men laughed. The women did not find it funny. "You can't be serious," one of the women replied, gently nudging him. "You guys are all the same. Didn't you hear what she said? She said he might be someone special for someone else. That means she isn't looking for a serious relationship with him and might like someone else." Oh, man. Unreturned feelings. "This is the worst kind of situation. I really feel for him," said one person. "But that doesn't mean he isn't in touch with her," added another. "She's not dating anyone at the moment. She's been my friend for a long time, and we work together at the hospital. Sometimes she has a rough day and no one knows why. I think it might be because of her ex-husband. He still has an impact on her, and I bet he doesn't treat her well." "How do you know that?" I asked. "I can't say for sure. But I knew she had a picture of him in her work locker. To my surprise, it was you. You're her ex." People started whispering and exchanging glances at me. I decided to leave and walk toward my car. On my way out, I saw Matt. "I'm heading out," I told him. Lisa and Timmy were by the kitchen counter with another couple. Our eyes met as I walked by. I was almost to my car when I stopped and decided to go back. I approached them. She was wiping her eyes. "Excuse me, but I'd like to talk to you," I said to Lisa. "Why? So you can blame me for something?" "I just want to ask you a question." I paused. "Please." "Excuse me, Timmy. I'll be right back." We stepped out onto the sidewalk. "This is far enough. Ask your question." "Actually, I have a couple. First, do you have my picture in your locker at work?" She glanced back at the house. "Well, yes." She turned away from me. "Why?" There was a long pause. "It's important, Lisa. Please answer." She faced me again. "Because I care about you." "Then why haven't you told me?" "Because you're hard to talk to." "Okay, I can be hard to talk to, but I care about you." Her eyes widened for just a moment before narrowing. "I'm not sure I believe you. It's true. You said I was with Timmy. I don't care about that anymore. I made a mistake, and another man is the father. That was a long time ago. Once you forgive me, you can't bring it up again. I have already forgiven you." On the street, she reached out to me just like before. We hugged as two cars drove by, honking their horns. She gently held my face in her hands. "The last person I was close to besides you was the one I spoke about at the lake. One of the 3 people I dated after my divorce. Timmy and I are just friends. He wishes for more, but I can't and never could." We started walking back to the party. As we got closer, Timmy was standing in the doorway. "I'm sorry, Timmy," she said. "I understand." He looked at me. "I guess you'll be taking her home, so I'll be leaving." He walked away. The party changed when Lisa and I arrived together. There were a lot of whispers and sideways looks. When Matt saw us, he just started laughing. We stayed for about 30 more minutes. As midnight came, we found ourselves in her room, enjoying each other's presence. Lisa became a regular at our house, but she never stayed overnight, and I didn't stay over at her place either, except for those weekends when the kids had sleepovers at their cousins'. Depending on her work schedule, Lisa and the girls often made dinner together, and she usually stayed late those nights. I had picked her up after a night shift one morning and brought her to my house. It was a Saturday morning, and the girls had breakfast ready for us. After we finished eating, Lisa and I washed the dishes together. She stayed up for a bit longer, but I could tell she was really tired, so I suggested she take a break. I closed the door to give her some quiet and went back to the living room where Ruth was waiting for me. "Do you love Lisa?" she asked. "Why do you want to know?" I replied. "Just tell me, Dad." "All right. Yes, I do." "Do you love her more than Mom?" "Oh, no, sweetie. It's a different kind of love." "In what way?" she asked. "Let me try to explain." I paused, took a deep breath, and held her hand as we walked to the living room. "Do you love your brother?" "Of course!" "What about your sister?" "Come on, Dad." "Of course I do," I replied. "What about me?" she asked. "And what about your grandfather?" "What's your point, Dad?" "My point is that we can care for many different people. Love comes in many ways, and that doesn't mean we love one person more than another. It just means we love them differently. Do you get it?" "I think so. Growing up will be quite hard, won't it?" "Only if you make it hard." I chuckled. Lisa slept until early afternoon and spent the rest of the day with us. Later that night, I took her to the hospital so she could get her car and go home. The next morning, I heard Ruth and Carrie talking before breakfast, but I couldn't hear what they were saying. As usual, Jake was only focused on food. Ruth and Carrie came in for breakfast, and Carrie spoke first. "Are you going to marry Lisa?" "Again?" she asked. "I would like to, but a lot depends on the three of you." "Why us?" Ruth asked. "Well, if I ask her to marry me and she says yes, that means she would move in here with us." "Would you share a room?" Carrie asked. "Of course they would, silly. Married people usually share a space unless they have a fight," Ruth said. "How do you know that?" I asked. "Dad," she replied, as if I should already know. "How many kids in my school do you think live with both their parents?" I shrugged. "Less than half." "Don't they teach you that in college?" "I must have missed that class," I said, trying to find the right words. Little Jake chimed in, "If you marry her and she lives here, does that mean she will cook for us all the time?" "At least some of the time," I told him. "But we need to do our part. She will be a wife and stepmother, not just in charge of the house." "I agree," he said. Ruth and Carrie nodded in agreement. The kids and I spent a week looking for a ring. I thought about using old rings from her box, but I decided that this should represent a fresh start. On the day we got the ring, Ruth called her and invited her over. When she got here, the three kids ran to the driveway and excitedly led her inside. They brought her into the living room and told her to stand right there and don't move. Then they waited for me. "What's happening?" Lisa asked. "Dad wants to ask you something," said little Jake, trying hard not to laugh while his sisters urged him to be quiet. Meanwhile, I was in my room trying to calm my nerves. I didn't have any doubts about wanting to marry her, but one thing she said made me think, "Once you forgive me, you can never bring it up again." That was true. My parents always told me that when you give someone a gift, you can't take it back, and it's not up to you how they use it. If they want to give it to someone else, that's their choice. They also taught me what Lisa said. Once you forgive someone, no matter what they did, you can't take it back, and you can't mention it again, so make sure you really want to forgive them. As little Jake once said, I'm okay with that. I walked into the living room and she was there watching my three troublemakers trying to figure out what was going on. Or maybe she already knew or had a suspicion. I soon realized she didn't see it coming because the moment I knelt down, she fainted. I didn't ask her about it afterwards because as soon as she woke up, she kept saying yes. We had the wedding 5 months later. Her father walked her down the aisle for the 3rd time. It was the 2nd time he handed her to me. I don't want to do this again, he said at the ceremony. You won't have to, I replied. This is forever. I smiled at her and took in the lovely scent that reminded me of her. This story left me questioning the true weight of forgiveness. Can love truly survive betrayal, or does time just numb the pain enough to make us forget? Watching Michael choose compassion over revenge shook me more than any act of vengeance ever could. Maybe the real strength isn't in walking away, but in walking back with your head held high.